Hey guys, welcome back to Fix It Friday, the weekly YouTube series where we talk about video game console repairs, mods, and restorations. And this week we have a Panasonic Q. So this is a Japanese version of the GameCube, and what makes it distinct from a standard GameCube is that it also has a built-in DVD player. And so it's a really cool system. I mean, it's much larger than a original Nintendo GameCube. It has LED lights behind the controllers, which has a really nice kind of look to it. And yeah, these are really hard to find and really beautiful. And so this one has some pretty major problems. So right now, as you can see, it looks beautiful on the outside, but it didn't always look like this. So when this system arrived, it was shipped over from Japan. Whoever packaged it did a really terrible job, and so this thing sustained major damage. So when it first got here, this whole bottom piece was cracked, and the power supply board was also obliterated as well. So, you know, this used to be a fully working machine, but it didn't even turn on. So fortunately, those parts were replaced, but the machine still has problems. It no longer generates sound from composite video out, and it also has some kind of problem with digital video out and audio. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna take apart this entire system, and I really wanted to do that anyway because I really don't think there's too many videos on YouTube which show how to completely disassemble a Panasonic Q. So I'm gonna do that. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take out this Japanese GameCube motherboard and replace it with a new one and see if hopefully all of these problems are confined to the GameCube motherboard. All right, well, let's get started. All right, so to start disassembling a Q, the beginning is pretty straightforward. You want to start with the side panels and just go ahead and remove all these. All right, so when we turn it to the back over here, you will notice that there are quite a lot of screws here as well. For now, we're gonna just keep it simple and we're gonna take these 6 out because that allows me to remove these side panels here. All right, so from here you can see that there are lots of other screws. All of these are the same size, so you don't have to worry about keeping them separate from each other, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull those out. This button here also, this is added by the original owner of this system. So this is a mod which allows you to switch between USA and Japanese regions. It's a really nice button, so we're gonna leave that in and basically just install it onto the new board. Okay, so right now I have the system laid on its side, and this is the front panel. You'll notice that there are 2 screws over here. You also have to remove those. And thankfully they are the same size as the others, so you can just add them all into the same pile. You don't have to worry about keeping any of these screws separate from each other. Okay, so at this point, the side panels are definitely removed, and to take them out, what you see I'm doing is I'm lifting them up and just removing them that way. There are these little hooks over here on the top that keep it locked into place. So you kind of have to just push up a little bit and out. And you'll see me do it again here. Just push up and out. And, okay, so now we're going to remove the top here. To do that, what we're going to do is we're going to start by just disconnecting a few things. So there's this guy up here that needs to be disconnected, and down here, and so that sets this side free. And there are more over here. There's 3 different connections here, but they're not accessible right now. We're gonna leave them alone for the moment. Okay, so what you wanna do is, you see there's like a little notch over here? There's one on the other side too, and that's what keeps the top in place. You just kind of pull back on this and push inward on this to loosen it up. Okay, and I'm going to do that now on the opposite side. There you go. Sometimes you got to go back and forth a little bit on this to make sure it's out. It will come free. And there we go. Just takes a little back and forth. There we go, on both sides. So you just want to be careful, but now you can see that the whole top is free. And now that that's done, now we have easy access to these 3 cables here. So you can just pull them out like so. And this one, I believe it just, yep, I just pull. That's it. Okay, so now the top is free. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and take off this front plate, but in order to do that, there's actually 2 more hidden screws that we need to remove. So there's one all the way over here. I'm just going to zoom in real quick so you guys can see it. So there's one right over here in the corner, and then on the opposite side, there's one in the exact same position. So first I'm going to go ahead and just disassemble those, or take those out. And yeah, these are the same size as all the others, so technically you can put them in a big pile with each other. There's nothing special about them. Okay. So now those are both out, and what we're going to do is we're going to push on this little corner here and on the opposite side, because there's a little bit of a piece of plastic that keeps them kind of interlocked. You see, like that. And there we go. And now this is free for the most part, except for the controller port, which I'm going to just kind of pull up on, and now it's totally free. Depending on how far you need to dig into the Q, you may not want to do that, because putting this back in is really hard unless the Q is basically totally disassembled. So depending on what you need to do, if, say for example, you just want to work on the drive belt or something like that, and you don't want to go all the way down, then you don't have to take off this front plate completely. But in my case, I'm doing a total teardown, so off it goes. Okay, so now we're at the point where we can remove the DVD drive, and this is a pretty tricky thing. So before I start, I just want to kind of show you guys something. So you see how there's like these little ridges over here on this side and this side? These are actually like kind of like anchors to keep the drive locked into place. So even though we've set the drive free by removing all the screws, and I just realized I missed a screw, so let me take care of that real quick. Got to double check your work, and I should have, but I got it. Yeah, so even when this thing is totally free and not screwed down into anything, these locks still kind of hold it down. So you have to do on the back is just kind of pull up a little bit. And you see how now it's completely free? And you'll see here on the underside that there are not 1, not 2, but 3 ribbon cables that connect it to this DVD board. At least that's what I'm calling it. Okay, so you just pull those out, and now I'm just going to flip it down and let it lay over here. Alright, so this gigantic board over here, this is doing, I think, a variety of different things. It outputs composite video and audio from the GameCube. It also, I think, handles DVD-related functions, and yeah, so the drive connects to it. And so yeah, there's still one more board over here. This is what connects the DVD drive directly to the GameCube. And removing that is easy. All you gotta do is pull this one screw out. And again, this screw is the same as the others. And then with your fingers, you can just kind of pull it out of its socket. And now this DVD drive is completely free, and it's a monster. So, you know, if you have other things to do, like changing the drive belt or replacing the laser in the DVD drive, I'm not going to cover that in this video because this one has no problems. It's 100% working. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just taking this apart. Maybe in a future video, if I get the chance, I'll show you guys how to do that too. Alright, so we are getting closer to the bottom now. So you can start actually seeing the GameCube motherboard. That's what this thing is in this shield here. We've got this DVD drive board that I was talking about beforehand. This here is the power, this is basically the power brick. So in a normal GameCube, the power brick is outside of the cube, but in the Panasonic Q, it's on the inside, and so it brings in the 120 or 100 volts and regulates it down for both the DVD drive part and for the GameCube and all of that. This is the digital video port. Normally, this thing is connected directly to the GameCube, but here it's just a separate piece, and these 2 screws just hold it down to this little anchoring mechanism, so you don't have to worry about that right now. Okay, so the next thing I gotta do is figure out how to continue here and remove this back panel. So the back panel works in the same manner as the front panels, more or less. So you just have these little interlocks on both sides that keep it together. And once you pull, and off it goes. Now, normally you could just completely disconnect it, but I have this region mod switch connected here, so I can't for this particular case. So from here, things actually get a little bit easier. We're gonna remove the power board, and so it has these little plastic snaps that hold it in place. So you gotta basically like pinch them with your fingers or with a pair of pliers, and then pull up, and it comes off, these snaps. And you've gotta unplug this power here. This connects it to the daughter board that supplies power to the cube. And we got that taken care of. You also have to separate this DVD board from the cube. So you just kind of pull back on this little plastic holder, and you just pull back. Another thing you want to make sure is you note the orientation of the wire. This white wire goes to the left. In fact, I'm actually going to take a photo of that just to remind myself when I reassemble, because it's easy to forget these things. Okay, so I'm going to sever some more connections here to this DVD board. So one of them is back here. I think this is also related to power, I'm pretty sure. So it works just like the other one, where you just kind of pull with your fingernail upward like this to unlock it. The stripe is on one side, so just take a note of that. And hopefully, oh, my hand is completely blocking. Let me try it from this angle. Okay, so you can see you just pull out. So you pull like that, and now this board is totally, or this cable rather, is totally free. Down here, let me just get this out of the way. You can see that there is a little connection over here. So this is actually what's taking the audio and video, the composite video and audio from the GameCube, and bringing it to this DVD board, which ultimately, you know, outputs the video from those jacks. So this guy also can just be pulled out. Sorry for my hand blocking, it's just I had to kind of pull it. But yeah, so now this guy is free as well. And then there's one more down here. I think this is also, oh, I think this is the fan's power coming in. Pretty sure. You can see it's super loose now. Okay, there we go. And this is more or less free now. Okay, so now we're basically at the end, and things have become a lot simpler at this point. So for example, if you had to work on this board, all you'd have to do is just disconnect it over here, or alternatively over here, you can just take this and disconnect it to separate this power board from this other piece of the power. Yeah, so that's kind of how this is all set up. You don't really have to, I'm not gonna bother with it in this particular teardown because it's just simply a matter of disconnecting cables, and you can clearly see there's a few screws if you actually have to remove all of this stuff if you want to. I don't need to for this particular job that I'm doing today, so I'm not going to. But literally, it's just as simple as removing a few Phillips screws in order to get it out of here. From here, it's kind of very similar to tearing down a GameCube. So these screws are different from all the others, so you should set them apart in a different place. But basically all you've got to do is remove the fan and remove the RF shield in order to gain access to the GameCube. So now there's these 4 little screws over here holding this little RF shield thingy in place. This is also present on a normal GameCube, although it's not made in this color of metal. It's usually like a general kind of silver colored metal shielding. I don't know why they made it different for the Cube. Shouldn't matter, but they did. Okay. I'm just going to unplug this one cable here. So now this daughter board is basically free from everything else. Basically free. There's still a few little cables here. So these 4 cables here are related to that switch that someone used to make a Japanese to American region switch. So I'm going to ignore that for now. And then you see this little connector here. This is for composite video and audio. So now with that out, the top shielding is free, and then I'm gonna unplug the digital cable. There we go. So now all of that is out, and this should look like a regular GameCube at this point. All right, so let's get the last little bit done. So all we've got to do here is just take these 6 screws out. All right, and there's a little piece here that's connecting to a power regulator board underneath. So this thing, that's crazy. It has 3 boards for regulating power. It's got these 2, and then there's the official GameCube one underneath. So yeah, all you gotta do is just kind of pull, but expect some resistance here because it's connected. There we go. Oh, sorry, it's down here. Well, anyhow, it's finally free. So we're at the very bottom of the Panasonic Q after all of this excavation. All right, so what we're gonna do now is just remove this heatsink. So you just kind of pull and it comes right out. And this is no different from any standard GameCube. The major changes is that the composite video socket is replaced with this kind of connector, and the digital out port has this kind of connector as well as daughter board. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna desolder these, and I'm gonna put them onto a stock Japanese GameCube that I know works. And we're gonna see if we can just reassemble everything and get the system working again after all the horrible stuff it's been through. These 4 wires here, this is just for the switch, and I can tell you that these 2 wires over here are actually, these 2 black ones, this is what's actually doing the region switch from Japan to USA. Now, the switch that's installed here also has a backlight, so this is 5 volts and this is ground, 5 volts and ground, and that's what's powering the light that's inside of the switch. But this is just related to the specific switch that was installed on this Panasonic Q. Okay, so in order to take the GameCube motherboard and convert it into one that's usable with a Panasonic Q, we have to take these 2 connectors off and solder them onto a normal GameCube motherboard. So I already have a Japanese motherboard set aside, which I'm going to use for that. But for now, what I'm going to do is just take these off using the desoldering gun. And for those of you that have watched my channel before, it's a very similar method to what I've done in the past for other things. So just go ahead and heat all these up. Alright, so the digital port is proving to be a little difficult. So what I'm going to do is just try a little chip quick on it instead. And this is that low melt solder that I've used on the channel before. It makes it easy to get rid of surface mount parts, but it's also helpful with through-hole components like this that are kind of stubborn and have a lot of solder on both ends. The goal here is just to flow a lot of this low melt solder onto the connector. Kind of work it back and forth, but you can already feel it loosening up. There we go. Out she goes, nice and easy. So I just need to clean this all up and get some of that extra chip quick solder off of it. And once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall this onto the other motherboard. Okay, so this is the donor GameCube. I've already removed the original ports on this one, and now I'm attaching the Panasonic Q ports onto it. And it's just a simple matter of adding flux and anchoring it into place, and then soldering in all the various connections. Alright, that's all done. So I'm just going to double check my work, make sure it's all clean and in good shape, clean it up with some alcohol, and then we're going to start the long process of reassembly. Alright, so I have already started reassembling, and so far everything that I've done is just basically going in reverse order. So, you know, I reattached the region switch to the exact same spots where you guys saw it. I started putting everything together backwards from how it was shown in the video. But this is a step where I don't do the reassembly backwards, I actually do things a little bit differently. So this point in the disassembly, it's very easy to come in here and reconnect the front panel. The front panel gives you all the controls and the GameCube ports and all that business. So, you know, if you wait until later to deal with this, you're going to give yourself a real headache. It's extremely hard to get your hands down in here and install this little cable, little ribbon cable. So now, while everything is gone, it's a great time to just plug it in and then just forget it, because you're not going to need this step until later. From here, you can kind of proceed with reconnecting all the parts and getting them all back together. Okay, so right now we are at probably one of the worst parts of the reassembly, and that is reconnecting the DVD drive back where it's supposed to go. It's very tough because it's just large and awkward, and you have 3 connectors here, and you've got this 4th one down here. And so what I do is I specifically leave this connection off until I'm done with the cables for the DVD drive. I also have to make sure that these 2 cables here are out of the way and up, because I'm going to need to connect them to the very top of the case at the end of the install. So you got to keep all that in mind. And then at the same time, what I do is I start by fixing this in place. That way the DVD drive is connected and I don't have to think about it for right now. And I kind of try to hold it in my hands in kind of 2 places. One is to hold the board, or if you have a third hand, a third person, this is a great time to have a third person helping you. But one hand kind of has to hold this down, and then the other hand has to come in and get these ribbons connected. And they just get pushed into position. So that part isn't bad. It's just the fact that there's a lot of crap you gotta hold on to all at once, and it's pretty unpleasant. But as you can see, I've done this before and I'm almost done now. Okay, there we go. That's it. So now that that's all done, I'm gonna take this one little guy here and I'm gonna push him in where he's supposed to go. Lock that into place. Okay, and so now everything is in a pretty good state. Alright, so I have the system mostly assembled now, and pretty much everything is working. There's still some stuff that is not. So I tested out the audio using composite cables, and unfortunately that is still not working on the GameCube side. It is working if you put it into DVD mode, because I can play CDs. So I'm guessing that problem has something to do with damage that was caused on that large board that is, I think, managing DVD related functions. That's my best guess. It's definitely not the GameCube, because I can in fact get GameCube audio if I use the digital out port. So right now what I'm doing is I'm connecting the Carby onto the back, which converts, or it just pulls the digital video and audio from the GameCube and then connects that up to the television. And so yeah, that seems to be working. I'm getting video and audio working through that. So yeah, I mean, this would be the preferred way to play on the Panasonic Q anyway. So you know, as long as someone is using a Carby, then you get the full experience. And I would say that, you know, this system is mostly working. The minor things that aren't working, I think, are not a deal breaker here. All right, well, I hope that you guys found this useful, and if you are trying to disassemble and service one of these, hopefully the disassembly guide that I've put together will be helpful. So yeah, if you guys like this content, please feel free to give me a thumbs up or subscribe to the channel. We put out videos like this every Friday, and thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.